Hello, everybody. So I'm going to talk about Outlander, which returned tonight, and it was definitely a great return for it. We've been waiting, what's it been now, over a year, and I think it's well worth the time because they have done an excellent job bringing the books to life, and I think it's going to be a very epic season. So let's see. We start with the Battle of Culloden, which, here's an interesting thing. I thought they were going to show the battle like moment by moment as it's happening. This is what they did. We basically pick up after the battle. Jamie is injured, but he's still alive. And the British are going through the piles of dead and they're killing whoever's somewhat still alive. Thankfully, they don't find Jamie, because I don't think there'd be a show without him. But it's still this nerve-wracking thing where it's like... But anyway, so interestingly, we see the Battle of Culloden through his mind, his memories. We don't get a full, like I said, play-by-play of what happened. It goes very back and forth from an earlier moment to a later moment, a later moment to an earlier moment. So I can't exactly remember the sequence in which everything happens, but through his memories we see when he lost Claire, when he sent her back through the stones. We just see a quick blink and you'll miss it moment where he's picking up the tartan. I think that's what they call it. He's picking that up, and obviously she's gone back through the stones, and he's noticed, wow, she was right. But we also see Murtaugh fighting with Jamie. We don't really get a sense as to what happened to him. My TV's kind of dark, so I'm not positive. I think we see his dead body on the field, which we didn't actually see how he died, but it's still sad. I liked his character. I thought he was great in season 2 with Jamie and Claire, watching out for them and helping them in any way. So it's like, it's really sad to see his character go, but I don't know if there's a chance he's still alive, but maybe you guys can confirm it for me. Anyway, so we see that, and we just see a lot of the fighting going on, but like I said, it's very choppy back and forth. The big scene that everybody's been waiting for, when Jamie and Jack Randall finally face off. And this was actually a really well done scene, I thought. The lighting changes, there's like this sudden golden hue to the lighting. And it's because this is the moment that Jamie's been waiting for. And he finally gets it. After a fight, I wouldn't say it's as long as I thought it was going to be, but it was a decent amount of time. After they fight, Jamie's badly injured, and Jack Randall is killed. So Jamie finally got his vengeance. And this was kind of an interesting thing at the end of their fight. Like, even though they're badly wounded, they're still going at each other. And it slows down, and then finally Jack Randall falls on top of Jamie, and it's supposed to be like a very symbolic moment of their very interesting relationship. But anyway, yes, Jack Randall has finally been defeated. His character was... I'm not even going to go into it. If you guys watch the show, you know how he is. Sadist is how I will sum it up. Okay, so what happens is Jamie, after he's done remembering everything, he has this moment. It's starting to snow, and this scene really made me... I wanted to cry when I saw it. It was just so... It was beautifully done. he sees Claire walking through the field of dead people, and this is a picture that we've seen. So he's obviously hallucinating that he's seeing her, and it's still so beautiful because even after all he's been through, after all he's seen, Claire is the first thing that he sees. And she brings him peace and solace, and it's just such a sad moment because you know she's not there. And you know they're not going to see each other for another 20 years, and it just makes me want to cry. I haven't done an Outlander video before, so you guys won't know this about me. I'm a huge fan of Jamie and Claire's relationship. It's been so beautiful since season 1. I've been rooting for them since the episode, like the first episode premiered, because obviously the sparks just flew the second they saw each other. So to see how much their relationship has grown, this is really this moment. Okay, so after he sees Claire, Rupert, who I was not expecting to see, he comes along and he saves Jamie. He takes him to a shelter of sorts. And we got the impression that Rupert wanted to kill him in the last episode in season 2 finale because Jamie had killed Dougal, his uncle, but out of self-defense, obviously. So the tensions were kind of really high between them, but this surprised me. He does bring it up later. He says even though he still hates him for doing that, he doesn't want to go to his grave hating Jamie. So, in a way, they make up. So that was kind of a nice way that they resolved that. And I will get to more of that in a bit. But the one thing that really, like out of everything that made me sad tonight, the one thing that really broke my heart was when they were rescuing Jamie from the field. He drops the dragonfly and amber, which was their wedding gift. And that was the gift that Claire had left with Jamie as a way to remember her. So that was so heartbreaking to me. They are so good at making me want to cry. Okay, so let's talk about how Jamie is saved. Now, this was interesting. So I don't know if you guys remember, but in one of the episodes of season 2, they run into a British soldier, and I believe his name was John Grey. So his brother is in charge of executing the Highlanders that took part in the Battle of Culloden. And when he learns Jamie's name, he knows that he's the man that he's supposed to save because his brother owed him his life, basically, because Jamie spared it. So that is how Jamie gets out of being executed. And this was actually, unfortunately, where Rupert met his demise. So that was very sad. Like I said, this episode made me want to cry at times. So yeah, Jamie is saved. He's taken back to Lallybroch, which I was actually surprised. I didn't think he'd get back to Lallybroch until at least the next episode. I thought it was rather easy. But I'm glad that he got back, and Jenny and Ian were there to greet him. So that's basically Jamie's story in this episode. Now, let's get to Claire's story. And they were going back and forth between Jamie and Claire, so it wasn't just one story and then another story. I actually thought they were going to do it like that, like they did in season 2, in the season 2 premiere. But no. They actually just went back and forth. But here is Claire's story. So she and Frank went to Boston. That's the last time we saw in that time frame. It goes so back and forth, it's hard to explain. So we're seeing when they went to Boston and how their life was during Claire's pregnancy. So they buy an apartment there, and they seem happy. But like, if you watch the first episode of season 1, you can tell how genuine their relationship is. When you watch this episode, you can tell that there's a bit, it's like they're forcing the relationship, and it's something that they want, but at the same time they don't know how to be that couple that they once were. And I think they did a great job doing that. The acting in this is so phenomenal, and I think, I'm blanking on her name, I'm sorry. I have to think about it. Hold on. Katrina Balfe. Couldn't think of it. So she brings Claire to life so beautifully, and Tobias Menzies, I believe is his name. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. He does a great job bringing Frank and Jack Randall to life. And I think it's really interesting in this season, he's going to be more of Frank than, because obviously Jack Randall was killed, so it's interesting because we've seen more Jack Randall, but now we're finally going to get to see more of Frank. So, like I said, the way that their relationship is now, they did a great job showing the struggles, especially because at the time it was assumed that Claire ran off with another man, and Frank has been trying to be very supportive and understanding, but at the same time, it's a time where you don't believe in fairy tales, where these things can happen. Even today, people probably wouldn't believe, oh, you fell through the stones for 3 years and then you came back, sure. But he's trying to move on, he's trying to be a good husband, and unfortunately it's Claire who's really struggling because she knows Frank is a good man, that it's because of all the trauma with Jack Randall and her love for Jamie that's really keeping her from loving Frank again. But she is trying, but you can tell she's having trouble fitting in to the relationship, along with being back in the 40s. Like, she has trouble starting the stove, that was one of the things. So instead she's figured out how to use the fireplace and cook food there. So you can tell she's still trying to get acclimated back into the 40s, which, not an easy thing when you've been in the 18th century for 3 years. So, oh, yes, I was going to point this out. I was thinking to myself over the summer, we haven't heard Claire say Jesus H. Roosevelt Christ in a while, and we finally heard the return of her famous line. So that is kind of a way she's put herself back into the 40s. She's saying that again. Because I think it was only for like the first couple of episodes where she said it in season 1, and then it completely disappeared. I've been reading the book, the first Outlander book, and I noticed she hasn't said it that much in there either, so I'm not sure exactly where they're fitting that in, but it is a popular line is all I know. So she finally said it again. Moving on. So one thing we get to see in this episode is how Claire is dealing with 1940s sexism and discrimination. And this is interesting because she was obviously dealing with that in the 18th century. And in the 40s, it's weird, but it almost seems worse. I can't explain how. It could have just been Frank's boss being worse than the men in the 18th century, but God, it's like the second you show that you're smart, they just shut you down. And that's basically what he did. Claire just chimed in for 1 second and he's just all, oh, blah, 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 blah. So basically she's dealing with this again, and it's just kind of adding to her unhappiness because she's already struggling being pregnant, and struggling with being back in a time and with a man she doesn't particularly want to be with. So for his boss to tell her off, it's not very welcoming, let's say. But Claire is always very strong. She handles things as well as she can. But unfortunately, there is a point in the episode where she does break for a moment. It basically happens when Frank is trying, like, they're having a nice morning. He's making jokes and she's laughing. But then he tries to touch her and she shies away. So we can get the impression that this happens a lot. And at one point, Frank just loses it because he's mad that she won't let him touch her. And obviously, like I've stated before, it's because of all the trauma with Jack Randall and her love for Jamie. That is what's keeping her from being fully committed to the relationship with Frank. So it's kind of hard for her to explain this to him because he doesn't really want her to bring the past up. And that's when she gets really mad. She tells him, I put the past behind me, I'm doing what you want, but it's still not enough for him. So she gets so mad at one point that she actually throws, I think she said, an ashtray at him. And we've never seen Claire get violent with Frank before. So it wasn't, I didn't want to cry at that moment, but it was shocking to me to see her act that way towards Frank. She's just very not in a good place in that moment, and she's taking it out on Frank even though he's been trying to be a good person to her. It's just unfortunately not an easy thing. So at one point, Frank tells Claire that he's in this. If she's not, then she can go or she can stay, but only if it's what she wants. So we don't actually see her make the choice, but clearly she stays with him. And at one point, Frank is about to write to the Reverend who they met back in Scotland. He's going to ask him for information on Jamie, but then Claire's water breaks, so they have to attend to that. So I guess we're not going to get answers on that. I'm not sure. He probably is going to forget about the letter because now they have a child. And this was actually this was a great scene because they show Claire in labor and they actually put her to sleep. I'm not entirely sure what the procedure was, if they did a C-section. I'm not sure. But it's basically this moment where Claire wakes up from the anesthesia and this is a complete recreation of the first child that she lost. She wakes up and she's feeling her stomach and she's asking repeatedly, "Where is my baby?" That is exactly what happened in episode 7 of season 2, called Faith, where she lost her first child with Jamie. And the moment when Claire sees her baby alive and healthy, that moment is just so well done. It's beautiful because she gets a chance to be a mother. And even if it's with Frank, she's happy that she gets to be a mother finally. And unfortunately, the nurse had to come in and ruin the moment. She points out the red hair on the baby's scalp, and she's like, "Who's got the red hair?" And it's like, why are you asking that? It's like, let them have their moment. So that's obviously going to create a rift, more of a rift between Claire and Frank, because Frank is going to constantly be reminded that that's not his child. So that is definitely where more tension is going to come in. But yeah, that was the episode, and I thought they did a great job with it. It happened where I wasn't expecting it to happen. Like I said, with the battle, they didn't show it consistently through, but I thought it was really interesting to see it through Jamie's memory. And instead of Jamie's story and then Claire's story, they had both at the same time. I really liked that they did that because it really shows the parallels between how they're living their lives without each other. And it's just so sad because you know that there is a void. You feel the void. And I think they did a great job with that. So I'm very excited to see the upcoming episodes. It looks like they're going to be looking into where Jamie is 20 years from his time, because that is what Claire is planning to do. She's planning to go back to Jamie. So we're going to see more of that, and we're also going to see more of Claire and Frank raising Brianna, their daughter. So yeah, I'm really excited for this season. I've been waiting so long. There is a thing called Droughtlander, and it is real. And the Droughtlander is finally over. Alright guys, I'm going to do more videos on Outlander throughout the season, and I will see you next week. Have a good day and good night. Bye.